Please welcome the League of Women Voters of Greater Peoria, past president of the board, Connie Romanus.
Thank you and good morning. Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Greater Peoria event, Shine on Democracy. This is our third event similar to this, and we're really pleased to have you here, and I'm sure you will appreciate our speakers and what they have to comment. We'd like to thank the Universalist Unitarian Church, the Reverend Jennifer Innes, Melissa Anderson, Jean Bork, and Colin Baker for their assistance in preparing for this event at the church. There's also a goodwill offering jar at the church at the greeting table for the church at the greeting table, and if you can drop $1 or $2 in, it'll be much appreciated. The League of Women Voters was founded in 1920 by a group of dedicated women who fought hard for the right to vote. The League is and always has been nonpartisan, but does support issues at the local, state, and national levels. After a lengthy study process and consensus of our members. Full disclosure, men have been welcome in the League since 1975. We welcome all genders to join us in the fight for democracy. As June is the Home to Pride Month, this is an important opportunity to support queer communities under threat. There's been a surge in legislative and administrative attacks toward the LGBTQIA+ community. Democracy includes everyone. Today, we're asking you to give us some feedback. Hopefully you got a survey as you walked in, and we would appreciate it filling it out, giving us some input on what you'd like to hear at future programs. There's a box at the back of the room to return those to at the end of the meeting. Today, our program is also being live streamed on YouTube at the League of Women Voters Greater Peoria channel. I'd like to share a quote from regarding the recent events in California with the National Guard. The League of Women Voters California Executive Director Helen Hutchinson and the League of Women Voters U.S. CEO Selena Stewart have issued the following joint statement in response to the deployment of National Guard troops, largely against peaceful protesters in Los Angeles County. Their statement reads, "The president villainizing protesters is nothing but a performance to direct violence against the American people. By deploying the National Guard against the wishes of state officials, the administration intends to cause fear and to distract from the inhumane immigration raids. This administration is assaulting concerned Americans to silence voices of dissent. The president's overreach signals a larger crackdown on protests across the country meant to intimidate us from speaking out. The president declared the protest as rebellion against the United States, a characterization that he uses as his bias for overstepping his presidential powers to subvert the First Amendment right to associate and protest. A functioning democracy must ensure that we, the people, can hold our government accountable without fear of violence from government. We will not be intimidated into silence. At the League of Women Voters, our goal is to ensure that every person can make their voices heard in the streets and at the polls. We firmly believe that, like voting, peaceful protest is a constitutional right, deeply rooted in American democracy. Both voting and protest are powerful tools to drive change. As we see our institutions and checks and balances begin to erode, we must be concerned about the authoritarian actions that the government is taking. We see the government attack opposition with legal suits, audits, and other targeted maneuvers, set guidelines for our universities, and cancel contracts with law firms, which are hallmarks of authoritarian rule. We have the midterm elections coming up in just a few months. You're surely getting some emails to support candidates who will be running for office in the 2026 term. This is an opportunity for us to speak with our voices and make changes in Congress. And 2030 will be a census year, followed by legislative mapping opportunities. We all need to work together to make change happen and protect our democracy. Today, we are fortunate to have 5 members of our community who will be speaking to us on various issues that have potential to impact citizens' quality of life. The topics they are presenting are all represented in the SAVE Act and that big, beautiful bill that will be voted on very soon, perhaps today. Our speakers today are Brian Walder, WEEK meteorologist, who will address climate and the environment. Nicole Stephens, community engagement senior manager with Heartland Healthcare. Michael Gill, local farmer and ISU graduate, will discuss tariffs and the Ag Bill. Sharon Johnson, energy services manager for Peoria Citizens Committee for Economic Opportunity, and she will talk about low-income household funding for energy and the iLEAP program. And Julia Bonar, president and CEO of Neighborhood House, who will talk about the impact on providing meals on wheels to low-income individuals. As you listen to these presentations, members will be in the aisles with index cards. So if you have some question that you would like to write down for our speakers to address after the program, please do so. Be sure that you indicate either the name of the speaker or the topic that they're addressing. So we have collectors who will be picking those cards up. Our speakers, after their presentations, we will do some Q&A. And at that time, speakers will have 1 minute to answer the questions that you have posed to them. So fill out your surveys, and remember, we'll have a box for those at the end. After the speakers have all done their presentations, we're also going to have a photo op with the group. So I'm going to plug that right now, and then we'll plug it again before the Q&A. We will have everybody stand up for just kind of a group photo. And after that group photo, we'll do another one more with feeling. So be sure to feel like waving your arms. If you have a sign that's been approved to come in the room, then hold that up. And now we'll have our first speaker, I believe.
Please welcome from WEEK TV meteorologist Brian Walder to speak on stormy skies ahead for NOAA and the National Weather Service. Brian Walder.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me in the back? Are we loud enough? Perfect. My name is Brian Walder, and I'm a meteorologist at 25 News WEEK, and I want to thank everybody for inviting me here today to talk about proposed cuts to the National Weather Service and NOAA. Now, typically at work, I only get about 3 minutes to do the weather, and they're giving me more than double today, so I love that for me. But first, I want to start with a show of hands. It's kind of a random question, but I promise I'm going to bring it home. Who here within the last week has gone out to Starbucks, Dunkin', a local coffee shop, and spent at least $4? Show of hands. Okay, how about $8? Keep your hands up. A couple folks. $12? Anybody? Okay, there's one over there. So $12 in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of money. I think we'd all agree on that, right? But the National Weather Service only costs $4 every year of your tax money. So if you think of that $12 that you spent on coffee, that would fund the National Weather Service for 3 years. That'd be your portion of the tax bill. So for 2024, National Weather Service had a budget of $1.3 billion. It's one of 6 line offices at NOAA. That's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and their budget every year is $6.7 billion. Now, it sounds like a lot of money, but it's actually only 0.1% of the federal budget. That's it, 0.1%. So the question is, what are you getting with that 0.1%? Well, within the National Weather Service, some obvious answers. They provide forecasts, forecasting data. They issue watches and warnings. They launch weather balloons twice a day across many forecast offices across the country, and those analyze atmospheric conditions as well as using the data to initialize our models. But they do so much more behind the scenes, including providing support for aviation as well as events. Are there any Illini fans out there? Got a few. So National Weather Service provides forecasts and support for their football games. They'll send a member to the stadium to keep an eye on the weather. And anyone remember Tailgate and Tall Boys last year in Bloomington? There were strong storms one evening during the concert series, and they had to cancel the shows because of the weather. The National Weather Service was in constant communication with the McLean County Emergency Management Office, and they helped make the decision to cancel, which, of course, was an inconvenience, but it was definitely the right move for public safety. And that's just some of the things the Weather Service does. If you look at NOAA as a much broader picture here, they're responsible for much, much more. It includes the NOAA Weather Radio Network, that's broadcast warnings. They manage fisheries, which help keep fish populations at sustainable levels. They issue the drought monitor. They provide river and flood forecasts. They issue excessive rainfall and severe weather outlooks. They maintain weather database for historical weather data. They issue extended temperature outlooks on a weekly, monthly, and seasonal basis. They monitor the tropics with the Hurricane Center. They even monitor space weather, including geomagnetic storms. Now, the list goes on and on and on and on. I could spend the whole session here talking about everything that NOAA does, but again, I don't have that much time. But circling back to the Weather Service, there was a study that was recently done, and it found that for every dollar that's invested in National Weather Service, it produces $73 worth of public value. This comes from advanced warnings leading to mitigation of impacts of life and property, and this involves anything from transportation to agriculture to energy, as well as, of course, public safety. Now, the mission for the government department that NOAA belongs to is this: to create the conditions of economic growth and opportunity for all communities. That actually, believe it or not, is the Department of Commerce. So think about that for a second again. NOAA and its 6 line offices, the National Weather Service, the National Ocean Service, the National Environmental Satellite Data Information Service, the National Marine Fisheries Service, the Office of Oceanic and Atmospheric Research, and the Office of Marine and Aviation Operations belongs to the Department of Commerce. That alone speaks to the importance of these agencies and how reduced funding to them can negatively impact our communities and our country. Again, National Weather Service alone, $1 produces $73 worth of value. Now, I'm a meteorologist, I'm not a professional money manager, but if you were to tell me that a stock would produce 73 times my initial investment, I'd be putting my life savings into that stock. I wouldn't be reducing my initial investment. But that's where we are today. Staff cuts to the National Weather Service have left some forecast offices severely understaffed, leading to reduced weather balloon launches and reduced hours of coverage. There's also some serious concerns for severe weather and hurricane forecasting and issuing timely and accurate warnings and forecasts due to these staffing and data shortages. NOAA is potentially facing significant cuts to its fisheries as well as oceanic and atmospheric research divisions. Now, this week, just a couple days ago, I was able to attend the American Meteorological Society's Broadcast Meteorology Conference, and there were some presentations about some of the products that NOAA provides, including wildfire products and satellites. And a common question after these presentations was, how will the cuts impact you? And are you still expecting this program to be around in a few years? Now, some of the abstracts were not even able to be presented at the conference because NOAA scientists have lost their funding, which takes away both research, but also an education opportunity for the meteorologist community. There was even a story shared of how a canceled balloon launch from a Wisconsin National Weather Service office was not able to assess the atmosphere ahead of a line of severe storms. Now, this caused an immediate impact on the short-term forecast because meteorologists could not properly gauge the environment and therefore couldn't really tell their viewers with a high amount of confidence how the approaching line of storms would impact them and what the severe weather threat would be. There were just too many questions because they couldn't really see what the atmosphere was doing because of that failed balloon launch. Now, a very common response I've seen on social media when it comes to these Weather Service and NOAA cuts are, I don't need the National Weather Service and NOAA. I just watch such and such person on YouTube when there's bad weather, and I just look at my weather app on the other days. Well, here's my question. Where do you think all that data comes from? Even though I work at a TV station, I cannot do my job without National Weather Service and NOAA. We make our own forecasts, but we use all their data, and we are the public face for communicating watches and warnings. There's a joke that we're the only profession that gets paid to be right 50% of the time. Now, first off, I mentioned financial and sports experts. Second, I mentioned the temperature forecasts are actually about 90% accurate, about 3 to 5 days out. But whether or not you think we're good or bad at our forecasts, people can get hurt. Forecasts will get worse, and negative economic impacts will be felt if these proposed cuts are passed. Weather is a very unique issue because it affects everyone the same way. No matter what your political affiliation, religion, wealth, doesn't matter. If the storm is heading your way, it impacts you the same as everybody else. So what can you do? My advice is to reach out to your congressperson, not just because of the cuts, but because they could impact you. There are 100 senators and 145 voting members in House of Representatives. One is a meteorologist, Eric Sorensen, and he represents parts of Central Illinois. So we've made a huge investment to weather and public safety here, and these proposed cuts to NOAA and National Weather Service not only threaten the impact threaten the investment rather, but threaten your safety as well. Thank you.
Please welcome Michael Gill, a local farmer and U of I graduate with a degree in agriculture, to speak on the impact of the government policies on farming. Michael Gill.
Thank you, Brian, for that weather update. So I really do appreciate that. So, hi, my name is Michael Gill. I'm a second-year farmer and a graduate of the University of Illinois. It's exciting to talk about tariffs and the family farm. It's a dynamic subject. In fact, I'm keeping my phone on for updates as we talk, which I'm sure you guys have noticed. It's just one of those topics that continues to change and be fluid as we move throughout the summer here. So it's the kind of topic that lights up our search engines, it stirs debate across kitchen tables, town halls, and of course, the tractor cab. The pace of conversation is faster than ever. Just this week alone, plenty of changes and a number of issues have been brought up here this week. I've rewritten this speech several thousand times just this morning. So, tariffs for some, they're tools of policy, a lever to be pulled in order to bring parties to the negotiation table. For others, they show up right here on the ground. Fewer buyers at the market, lower prices for our crops, and a whole lot more uncertainty about what's possible. The impact cuts both ways, at the macro and the microeconomic level. Much of what we rely on personally, our equipment, our parts, and very much the technologies that help us grow, comes from beyond our borders. Tariffs on steel and aluminum have driven up the price of the machinery we need, driven up the costs of that next capital expenditure, as well as the trade restrictions have made critical inputs like fertilizer that much more costly. And of course, the crop prices. The uncertainty of the market and the tariffs increased uncertainty of the price of what our crops are worth today. Tariffs give us problems, but also give us opportunity. It gives us the opportunity to audit the way we do things, the way we go about our business. It gives us a chance to really innovate on that next thing that we need to accomplish. At the end of the day, it's all about eliminating that uncertainty with trade deals, formalizing agreements to help redefine conditions and adapt to market changes. It's about trying to make sense of policies that can reshape the future overnight. As a farmer, working with Mother Nature as a business partner, volatility we aren't strangers to it. So it's always been a gamble. Risk isn't new in our job. It's part of the job. We don't plant each spring because success is guaranteed, although 73 would be a nice return every year. We plant because we believe tomorrow is worth working for. And while that belief in tomorrow keeps us going, we also have to act today. I see farmers, consumers, and policymakers starting to talk across the fence line again. I see younger folks embracing new practices, joining cooperatives and discussion groups like the one we're here today, and building direct consumer markets that help us rely less on global tides and more on local roots. I didn't come into farming because it was easy, but because I believe in feeding people. I believe in the community. I believe that even when the system seems broken, we've still got the power to build something for today. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, objective judgment now at this very moment unselfish action now at this very moment, willing acceptance now at this very moment of all external events is all that you need. That's what we've got to accept today. It's a fluid event. We still don't know what we've got. There's deadlines in place. We hope that we accomplish our goals before those deadlines. For me, objectivity matters. It helps us name what's happening clearly, and it reminds us that the things are unfolding as they must. And our work is to respond wisely, to let the market tell us what to do. So what does that mean to do for our objective? As citizens, we must demand discernment and end goals on our trade policies, the wisdom to recognize the ripple effects of every lever that we pull and those who feel it most. As community members, we must invest in fortitude, in infrastructure, in tools, in technologies that make our family farms more nimble and resilient, in the broadband that reaches the furthest farms. As consumers, we must adapt and let the market address the supply chain, whether it's tweaked just a little bit here or there, just small adjustments, or build it from the ground back up. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I really ask all of us here to just be mindful that it is a fluid subject. It is very dynamic, and it's going to change day in and day out. It's going to be very volatile. It's reflected in the markets every day. We see markets go up, we see markets go down. It's one of those things that's not going to be set in stone, and we really aren't going to know what's next coming down the road. Just here today, pull my phone out here, we announced that we're ending talks with Canada at the moment here. We hope to resume those topics at some point. We also announced that there may be a deal on the board with China. We're excited for that news. Once again, it's all fluid. Got to take it as that moment comes. So, and like Marcus Aurelius said, take the external events. That's all you need at the moment here. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Please welcome Senior Manager of Community Engagement with Heartland Health Services, Nicole Stephens, to speak on health and hope in Central Illinois, defending the care and coverage we count on. Nicole Stephens.
Hello, everyone. Health and hope in Central Illinois, defending the care and coverage we can count on. So that's a big title. Long and short of it, I get the fun topic of discussing Medicaid and what that looks like as far as the potential for Medicaid cuts at the federal level. It's kind of terrifying to talk about, to tell you the truth. Things have been so up in the air as everything else has been this year. Just across the board, things have changed since January on a day-to-day basis. Things have been changing within the minutes. We know that across the board, as my friends have spoken about already this morning. So it is an honor to be with you this morning. I have been in this realm for only about 3 years, and I have gotten more into advocacy over the past year. So I've learned a lot. I've gotten thrown into it. And these federal changes have definitely shaped some things a little bit more and made me a little bit more nervous for my job and what that means for us. So if you don't know what Heartland Health Services is as an organization, we are a federally qualified health center. So what that means is that we rely highly on our Medicaid reimbursement rate. And that's where a large chunk of our funding comes from, besides our Section 330 grant that comes from the federal government as well. And so that day when Trump announced that all of those grants were going to be paused, that was a little terrifying for us. Luckily, we were able to continue operations at that point. Now, Medicaid is not just a government program, right? It's a lifeline for a lot of people. Many people, especially within our community, rely on Medicaid to be able to provide those services, whether it is their medications that keep them going throughout the day, whether it is their general primary care doctor, their women's care, anything like that. That is what is going to give them their lifeline. In Illinois, more than 3 million people rely on Medicaid for healthcare, including children. I often tell my team of community health workers, Illinois loves kids. We don't ask questions when it comes to kids, which is fantastic. I love that about Illinois. If you're a kid, you get healthcare. We love that. And here in Illinois, our lifeline runs through Heartland Health Services here in Peoria and Tazewell County. We serve over 23,000 patients every single year, and 60% of those patients are covered by Medicaid. 60%. That's about 14,000 people here in our Peoria and Tazewell counties that are covered by Medicaid. And we are getting reimbursed by the federal government for those patients. So these are all people that we know, people who are on diabetic support, people who are working just to help to feed their kids, people who rely on SNAP benefits, people that are relying on developmental screenings for their kids, or maybe need help recovering from substance use disorder. Those are all people that we help to support. And when Medicaid is strong, when that reimbursement rate is strong, we're able to support them really well. When it's struggling and when it's threatened, like it is right now, that safety net begins to fall away. So right now, our federal lawmakers, as we all know, they are at Capitol Hill debating on whether or not they are going to be funding Medicaid at a full level. The budget reconciliation plan, that big, beautiful bill that we all are hearing about, can lead to significant cuts in Medicaid spending. That is up to $880 billion, according to our estimates, of course. And some of those proposals being considered are, of course, the amount of money per person being spent on Medicaid each year, rolling back that federal support of Medicaid expansion, which Illinois is a Medicaid expansion state, and imposing work or reporting requirements that can cause individuals to lose coverage, even if they are working. Just for some context, just to let you guys know, if you are a single person in the state of Illinois, if you are making minimum wage and you're working full-time, you do not qualify for Medicaid. You are over income at that point. So just keep that in context. So it is not like, the income level is high. It is a low amount, and we are a Medicaid expansion state. So it means that we have a higher level already. So here in Illinois, though, 770,000, almost 800,000 people are covered through Medicaid expansion alone. So again, we have a broader range than some states do. The state receives about 62% of its Medicaid funding from the federal government. And if that support shrinks, we would face a projected loss of about $40 billion over 10 years. An amount that Illinois simply cannot absorb on its own, and especially given our current budget constraints. The good thing is for us here in Central Illinois that we just received word that we just received the largest Medicaid reimbursement increase in the past couple of years overall. So that's great news for us that Illinois approved that. That means that our reimbursement rates for Heartland go up so that we can in turn put that money right back into the community and into services and being able to provide that for the community to make sure that they are receiving the care and the services that they wouldn't be able to otherwise. If we're not able to provide those services, people then go to the emergency departments. They go without the care. They end up showing up out on the streets looking for care. It's not because they don't need care that they don't go to their primary care. It's because they don't have the care available because the system failed. So when you think about that, you see people that need that support and they need the additional help from their community. And you think, well, why don't people just go to see their primary care doctor? Why are they all showing up in the emergency department? It is not because we don't have the services available. It's not because the doctors are not there. It's not because people don't care. It's because we do care, and we just don't have the funds. We don't have the resources available to be able to provide those services, and they don't have the amount of money to be able to pay out of pocket, and the Medicaid expansion is not there. So that is what we are looking at, and that is why it's so important that you call your congressman and you call your congresspeople today. It is important every single day for the next couple days. We don't know when this vote is going to happen. It could happen tonight. It could happen tomorrow. It's important to call them, email them, do whatever you can, and just let them know that this is important to you and to your community. And that's all that I got. I'm sure that there's lots of questions because Medicaid is a huge deal, and there's so much more I could talk about, but I would stand up here all day. So thank you guys for having me.
Please welcome the LIHEAP Energy Services Manager from PCCEO, Sharon Johnson.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sharon Johnson. I am the LIHEAP manager at PCCO. I've been there about 18 years now in different positions. Today, I will be talking about the LIHEAP program and how critical it is for us to get out and get the word out and let everyone know that this is a valuable topic to help people with their energy assistance. LIHEAP stands for Low Income Housing Energy Assistance Program. So this year, this program year, we have helped over 7,000 people to keep their lights on or to get their lights turned back on. With the Congress and everything that's going on right now, we need this. And they talking about funding cuts. Probably a couple of months ago, they did do a big federal cut across the board, which affected our whole agency, not just our program, because we also do the Head Start program and food bank, all of that. So it actually affected the whole program instead of just the LIHEAP program. So we need to get the word out on that. There hasn't been a pause in our LIHEAP program just yet, but across the board it has been. So we have been able to help people. Right now, our funding is exhausted, and we still have people calling on a daily basis. So we have people that actually are without lights in the heat, and there's nothing that we can do about it because of the funding that's been cut. So once again, if we can just get that out there and let them know how important it is to get this done. We have a significant number of customers that actually applies twice. So our program year usually starts in October of 24. So by April and May, they comes back because they tend to not pay their bills through the winter because they can't cut off. So we kind of work closely with Ameren to try to get some type of feedback on how we can assist the customers more with trying to get them to pay something on their bill instead of going through the whole winter. So they have a program to where they can get on a low income payment agreement with them. Instead of paying the whole amount, if they apply for LIHEAP, they're eligible for that part of the process. And we also have a new program that's going on called the LIDAR program, where they get 75% up to 5% off on their gas portion every month. So just say if their bill is $250 for the gas part and they're at the 75%, they only pay that part. The state pays the 75% of that part. So that kind of helped out a little bit, but we still need to get the word that we need this LIHEAP program. And we also do emergency furnace programs where we help people get their furnace either repaired or replaced. So that kind of help them lower their bill also. So it's just a great need for the program. We anticipate a greater need next year, especially if they agree to the bill. It's going to be people all over. So we do more than just Peoria. Excuse me. We also help Chillicothe. We do Princeville. We do Mapleton, Bartonville. So all of them actually go up into Peoria County. Ameren is supposed to increase their usage this month, basically at the end of this month. They're supposed to go up. So then that's also going to be a strain on the customers. So we try to educate them on actually lowering their bill. If you're not using a microwave, unplug the microwave. If you're not in that room, cut the light off. So we kind of help them maintain. And I think that's just about it. But we just need to get the word out. And if you know of anyone who's actually looking for services or looking for any of our services, the Light Heat program, the food bank, we do prescriptions, we do school scholarships. So if you know of anyone, just have them give us a call. If you need anyone that is looking for furnace assistance, you can give us a call, weatherization. So we do a lot of referrals also with just the Light Heat. So we have people calling in, we'll refer them to Township Relief, who also does Light Heat assistance. We have a couple of churches that actually assist with the Light Heat assistance. So it's just not us just doing Light Heat. So if you could just get the word out, let everyone know that help is out here. We're trying to do the best that we can. You know, we're helping people. And everyone on the panel is suffering. So it's not just one area suffering. It's the whole world suffering right now. And hopefully we can get the word out and help everyone. So thank you very much.
Please welcome the President and CEO of the Peoria Neighborhood House, Julia Bonar, to speak on hashtag Save Lunch program, why protecting federal funding for Meals on Wheels is crucial. Julia Bonar.
Thank you. Imagine this. You are the concerned child of an aging parent. You are extremely worried about your mother who can no longer shop or cook for herself except for microwavable meals. You shop for your mother, but you cannot find meals that she enjoys other than Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwiches. In the course of a week, your beloved mother is eating 24 Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwiches. You know that this is not healthy for her. You reach out to Neighborhood House to inquire about whether your mother qualifies for Meals on Wheels services. You speak to a member of the team and are provided information about the program, and that in addition to a hot meal, your mother would be provided with a daily wellness check. Neighborhood House sends you a copy of the current month's menu that you can share with your mother. Your mother does state that she would like to see more variety in her diet and that the meals on the menu look wonderful. You sign your mother up for the program and feel a sense of relief knowing that your mother will now receive a healthy and balanced diet. It's easy for us to imagine this situation, but for one of our very own neighbors, this was his reality. After just 1 month on the program, his mother was thriving because of the balanced meals and social interactions she receives each day from her delivery driver. The need for our program is great. 1 in 5 Americans is age 60 or older, with 12,000 turning 60 each day. Qualifying for our program is not based on income, but rather on ability. Any one of us could find ourselves eligible for these services at some point in the future. As one of our clients stated, this service is life-saving. I am 86 years old and don't cook because of back pain issues. Thank you. Homebound seniors who are unable to shop or cook for themselves are more likely to be able to stay in their own homes when they are receiving a meal service. According to Meals on Wheels America, 1 in 4 seniors live alone and feels lonely. The program at Neighborhood House provides a balanced meal, adhering to the Illinois Department of Aging guidelines for the optimal health of the participant. Last year, Neighborhood House served over 1,200 of our senior neighbors and provided over 220,000 meals to our friends in Peoria and Tazewell counties. As I stated, 1 in 4 seniors live alone and feels lonely. As one of our clients stated, my driver is great. She always takes a minute or two to talk with me. It gets lonely when you can no longer drive. Isolation is common among the senior population. And in 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General released a report called Our Epidemic of Loneliness and Isolation. And in that report, it is stated that social connection is as dangerous as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. The daily contact with our driver helps to reduce isolation and depression. Meals on Wheels America webpage states hunger and social isolation not only jeopardize the health and well-being of older adults, they also place a significant strain on our country's healthcare system and economy. Our meal delivery service assists with keeping seniors in their homes, living a healthy and independent life right where they want to be. It costs Neighborhood House just $2,100 to feed a senior each year. According to Meals on Wheels America, the average cost of a nursing home in Illinois is $260 a day, or just under $95,000 a year. Meals on Wheels provides the best option for seniors' health and happiness while being cost-effective for the community. The overall impact of our service is significant, not just to the individuals and their families, but to all of us as taxpayers, our healthcare system, as well as the economy. What makes our program unique is that we are addressing both physical and mental health. The hot meal provided is nutritionally sound and can be tailored to accommodate medical needs and cultural preferences. But more than just the hot meal, our clients are receiving a daily wellness check and a visit from one of our friendly drivers. Unfortunately, more often than I would like, our drivers encounter a senior who is a victim of physical, emotional, and/or financial abuse. Our drivers are trained to identify signs of abuse and know the steps for reporting. In one situation, a client had an unwelcome visitor in her home who refused to leave. The visitor had taken the client's phone, bank cards, and identification. He was violent and scared off the client's caregiver. She didn't want to leave her home. So Neighborhood House worked closely with Adult Protective Services to ensure the client received services so she could remain safely in her home. Additionally, many of our clients form close bonds with the Neighborhood House Meals on Wheels staff. Jeff David has been with us for 15 years, and here's what one of his clients had to say. Our driver, Jeff, is not just a person who delivers our meals. He asks how we are doing and how our pets are. He keeps us from feeling lonely. Neighborhood House has been providing meals for over 50 years. We are able to do so because of the historic day in 1972 when President Nixon amended the Older Americans Act of 1965 to provide for a senior nutrition provision. So how does all this work? Older Americans Act nutrition funding is distributed from the federal government to the states, and from the state, they go to our local agencies on aging, which we refer to as the AAAs. Our local agency is the Central Illinois Agency on Aging, who then contracts for services to community-based providers like Neighborhood House for Peoria and Tazewell counties and MSW for Marshall, Stark, and Woodford. Meals on Wheels not only lobbies for organizations such as Neighborhood House, but also conducts research on issues related to aging. One important piece of data is that only 1% of philanthropy is given to senior causes. As a result, we are reliant upon our federal funding. Even on the years where we have seen an increase in funding, that increase has been less than what the increase in demand for services has been. Rising gas and food prices haven't just hit us, but they've hit programs throughout the country. So I ask you today to call your elected officials and tell them to save lunch and protect funding for Meals on Wheels because your voice matters. Thank you.
Well, I believe we promised you a photo op here. And so I think our camera person is going to get in position. And if everyone would stand up when he gives us the signal, we'll do 2 photos, one a little more formal, and the other one where you can spend a little energy.
If I, yeah, I was going to say, if I could, everybody's really spread out. And so if we could all just sort of slide towards the center, that would be super cool. Oh, shut up. Like, sorry about that. Somehow I accessed AI and it was trying to tell me. I'm like, what are you? Who are you? Why are you doing this? Okay. Yeah. All right. You're what we call VIPs because you're very important. All righty. Well, that aisle is really cool. Okay. I'm going to ask one more thing of you. Could everybody on this side take one step to the right? And if that puts you in the aisle, that's great. Same thing over here. Look, anticipation. Good job. You already knew I was going to ask you to take one. There we go. And now I've actually got everybody in there. Marvelous. Y'all are beautiful. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Now you guys want to have, what are we going to do? Like a, no, not a silly one. What were you going to do? Like excited? I don't know. Yeah. Hand in the air. Yeah. Heck no. I don't know. Yeah. We care. Damn it. No, you stupid thing. It flipped around and started taking a picture of me. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you. I appreciate you all.
So now we're ready for Q&A. And thank you for submitting so many questions. Start with Brian first. Ask the question. All right. So, all right.
I'll answer the first question off the bat. Any complaints about the heat, go to ccollins@week.com. You can email the complaints there.
So, Brian, what effects would canceled or delayed research have on weather enterprises?
So in short, it's true with any situation. If you delay research, you're delaying learning opportunities, advancing the science, whatever it is. But I think of 2 specific examples of this, in particular, just as a broadcaster. One is with NOAA. It's in research now at the National Severe Storms Laboratory called TIMS. It's Threats in Motion. So if you think of a tornado warning, let's say the polygon goes to Bartonville. That's as far northeast as it goes. Well, Peoria is not in that polygon. And as soon as the storm hits the end of the polygon, Peoria is in the warning, and then you get maybe a 5-minute lead time. Threats in Motion is allowing forecasters in a couple years when it is launched to actually move the polygon every 10 minutes. So the warning will actually kind of move in time, and that's going to be, I'm thrilled for that to eventually happen in real life. And also, next generation radar, it's a couple decades down the road, but any of these delays are going to, I think, affect my job. They're going to affect how we can present the weather and ultimately affect public safety. So, again, it's kind of a loss of safety and a loss of knowledge at the end of the day.
Another question for you. Can you stress the importance of NOAA as it relates to climate change?
Yeah. I mean, that's a very real situation. I think you've heard that 97% number. I think Neil deGrasse Tyson explained this one time. He said that if there was a bridge, let's say the New McCluggage Bridge, If 97% of engineers said, "Oh, the bridge is not good, I wouldn't drive over it," but 3% said, "Ah, you're fine," chances are you probably wouldn't drive over the bridge, right? So it's a very real threat that's facing us, and a lot of the climate research, a lot of the climate data, and even some of the climate solutions are under the umbrella of NOAA. And the more CO2 we pump in, we're kind of kicking the can down the road, and it's something we don't really have the luxury of doing. So a lot of it, again, comes down to the research. It comes down to solutions and solution-based situations here. So yeah, long story short, it's important, and hopefully it doesn't get cut because it's a big deal.
And I think the next couple of questions are for Michael. Try to alternate, but I got to tell you, you got the most questions. Okay?
Wonderful.
We'll do two now, and then we'll come back after the other speakers. So this one's combined. It's kind of looking at the weather and climate, and how did you plant differently, not only for the weather, but because of maybe some uncertainty in reimbursement and some of the laws that may be passed here, and also with the tariffs, I guess. Did you plant any differently because of tariffs? And the weather this spring was very unpredictable.
Weather's always going to be unpredictable. We had a smooth planting season. Most probably don't describe it with that adjective. It's probably the first year we've described planting with the adjective smooth. So for the most part, you do have weather delays here or there. But for the most part, nothing as far as weather truly impacted our planning decisions. So you just go right ahead and take what the weather gives you and move on forward.
The next question is, how will government purchasing less food with the USAID program and local school food services affect farmers in the area?
Could you repeat that one more time?
How will government purchasing less food through the USAID and local school food services affect farmers in our area?
Well, it changes the supply chain. At some point, the farmer's going to have to turn and look to go to a different demand point. So if that demand point is no longer there, the market will dictate as such, and the farmer will make that decision in each and every opportunity.
Okay. Our next couple of questions are for Nicole, and then we'll come back. Nicole, are rural areas more impacted by Medicaid cuts, or could they be?
I mean, yeah, rural areas are going to be affected very similarly to urban areas, to suburban areas. It's different when you look at more rural areas because there are different barriers that you see, especially when you look at a county such as sorry, I'm like stuck here, I'm getting choked out. When you look at an area like Tazewell County, which is such a huge space and very, very rural. If you have a transportation barrier, there are so many spaces that you have to get to, and it is very, very difficult to get to healthcare when you have a really long way to drive. So it can affect it in a very different way. But yeah, it's a different barrier that you see versus urban areas.
Okay. Can you discuss the income level for a person on Medicaid in Illinois, and also perhaps address the cuts to Medicaid effect on rural hospitals for healthcare?
Yeah, so the federal poverty level for this year is $1,300, $1,305. So Medicaid for the Affordable Care Act is at 138% of that federal poverty level. So you've got to take that 1,300, just round it, 1,300. That's going to be your base level. So for every 2 people you add on, for every person you add on additional dollars. And then it's going to be that 138%. And so kind of just keep going up. Now, kids added on, they have a different income level, aging, blind, disability. everything is going to look different as far as income levels go, but that federal poverty level dollar amount is going to be your baseline. And what was the second question? The second part of that question, sorry. The rural
Healthcare hospitals, I believe.
the reimbursement rate for rural hospitals.
Just functioning.
So the reimbursement rates for hospitals, and I'm going to apologize for this because I am not the financial department. Thank goodness. So I don't know the reimbursement rates for hospital systems as much, but federal qualified health centers such as Heartland Health Services do have a better reimbursement rate for Medicaid just due to the nature of federal qualified health centers. And that is the benefit of having us here in the Central Illinois area. So I'm not sure about that rural reimbursement rate. I'm honestly not even 100% sure about our reimbursement rate since it did change within this past month due to that reimbursement lift by the state of Illinois. So, and it changes with what service it is as well. So behavioral health reimbursement rates look different than primary care reimbursement rates. So there is a little bit of a difference there. But I want to say that our reimbursement rate at a federally qualified health center is going to be sitting somewhere around that $170 encounter rate, I think. But don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure. Again, not a finance person.
Thank you. And we'll have a couple of questions for Sharon. Sharon, what is the income requirement to qualify for the heating assistance program?
Well, it depends. It depends on the household size. So for one person, it's 1510, and it goes down. So it depends on the household size, and they're supposed to increase it this program year starting July 1st. So we'll be able to assist more people.
How do people apply for the program?
Well, it's different ways. Next year, we're supposed to try to do an online application or by phone, but right now we just do it in person. So we also have, every month we have a sign-up date. So you can either call over the phone to get an appointment on that day, or you can go to Promise Academy to get an appointment on that same day. So we kind of give you two options, but for the next couple of years, I'm working on to increase the ways to actually apply for services.
Thank you. And we've got a couple of questions for Julie. Julie, what's the funding gap between your funding and your reimbursement?
Yeah. So we have 3 contracts with our local AAA. Our reimbursement rates range from $3.57 for Peoria County, $6 for Peoria City, and $8.83 for Tazewell County. Our average across all of those is $8, but we know that if the average is $8, our Tazewell County, it's probably costing us a lot more. So the funding we receive does not nearly cover the cost for us to operate the program.
Can you address the consequences if funding was reduced or cut entirely to local seniors and their families in the community at large?
Absolutely. So we have been told that at the federal level, our funding will remain flat, and we're very happy to see that the state budget has provided an $8 million increase for senior nutrition. But we do not operate on a waiting list. Anyone who comes and qualifies and needs meals, we've been feeding, but we can't continue to do that and operate at a budget deficit. So we may end up having to start a wait list. There are many places across the country that have wait lists. There are cities in California that may have over 2,000 people on a wait list, or people waiting a year to a year and a half. That can be very harmful because we see an increase in hospitalizations due to malnutrition, as well as dehydration. And then also people who need those services aren't receiving them. And our drivers are really that first line of defense. They notice who has fallen, who's having a medical emergency, and all of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, we have another question for you. Is it possible for a private entity to replace the National Weather Services and/or NOAA's functions?
In a way, yes, but you would need all the dollars in the world to do it. So no, realistically, but think of all the radars, all the data sets, all the supercomputers, all the models, everything costs a ton of money. So you were probably talking Warren Buffett money and then some. But from just a logistical standpoint, if NOAA goes away, Weather Service goes away, let's say when it comes down to warnings, and there's a private company that they issue their own warnings, well, maybe you have to pay a little fee to do that. But from a TV standpoint, maybe we would have to issue our own warning. So if there's a storm that, let's say us at 25 issue a warning, but our friends at 31, they don't, and this private company saying, it would just be mass confusion. So at the end of the day, it makes zero sense to do it. Again, technically, yes, if someone had all the dollars in the world, they could build a radar network, they could build the computers, but it just doesn't make any sense to, given the huge investment we've already made as a country into this.
Thank you. And the next question is for Michael Gill. How does immigration, labor, aging workforces, and wages affect the agricultural industry?
Just as a whole, it's part of the bigger labor issue. As far as immigration goes, it's one of those hot button issues that gets debated on, and there's two sides to that solution. As far as labor goes, it's more about getting that skilled labor out into the geographies that they need to be. So we've seen the transition of labor move into the cities. Now we've got to see them kind of move back out into the rural geographies as well.
Can you address how the effect of tariffs could affect not only our local farmers, but practices of farming and resources for agriculture?
It's another factor to consider in the marketplace. So you just adjust with the market. As far as costs, you'll see an increase in costs and inputs in particular.
And one last question for you. Is the impact of uncertainty higher for smaller farms compared to larger agricultural businesses or not?
I'd say the impact's across the board. So once again, it's for lack of a better metaphor, it's all math as far as who you're serving. So there's a certain number of calories and energy in the world, and there's a certain demand for those calories. So balancing that, whether it's small farms, whether it's large farms, that's kind of the balance of that ecosystem.
Thank you. Nicole, looks like we have a couple questions for you. Are there any other resources other than the federal government that can assist with the Medicaid budget, or private, state, other?
So Medicaid, Medicaid is one of those things that it's a weird entity because it is federally funded, but it is dispersed by the state. So the federal government anticipates that the state is going to responsibly distribute it the way that it should. And so everybody likes to say, oh, Medicaid is a state-based thing. It's not. It's federally, but it's dispersed by the state. So it's kind of difficult to anticipate that. But there are other funding opportunities, especially for health centers and things like that. Grants, private donors, other funding opportunities just through partnerships even. Like, for example, we use University of Illinois College of Medicine in Peoria. We use a lot of that revenue streams as well by using their residents as providers or partnering with OSF. There's different partnerships, different grants and funds like that that we use when we're not able to rely on Medicaid.
And can you address how Medicaid cuts might affect emerging models of healthcare, such as mobile health units, telehealth?
Sure. We have to rely a lot on subsidized behaviors on other forms. So we just recently we got a grant for our behavioral health expansion, and we were able to secure a mobile health unit. And that's great for us. That's going to be great for the community. Behavioral health is one of those smaller reimbursement rates. And what we're going to be able to do is use that same model with the mobile health unit to go out and get primary care services done within the community that will be able to subsidize the behavioral health services that we're also able to provide to the community as well. So that reimbursement rate will be able to handle some of the services that maybe don't have as high of a reimbursement rate. And we're able to kind of balance those two that way.
And I'm going to start with you, but this is a question that any of the speakers can address. It's more general, but just saying, hearing that we need to speak out, we need to contact legislators. Not sure that we can stop this bill that's going to be voted on. Hopefully our Democratic senators are in agreement, but aside from that, how does a Peoria area look bigger to the world? How do we make changes? Is there something else you would recommend people do?
Yeah, definitely. Just get out there, get to know your legislators, and that can be your city councilman. Get to know your state and your federal. Go and just see them whenever you see that they're out and about somewhere. If they're doing like a Santa Claus thing, go and see them and just introduce yourself as one of their constituents. If somebody emails something out and says, call your congressman, do it. Call them. Even if they don't listen to their voicemail, their staffer is going to, and they will write that down. They will send that along to the congressperson, and they will listen to them. You are their constituents. They want to know you, and they want to hear more about what you're interested in, because that is important to them. I've been able to talk with a lot of them this past year, and they're very interested in what we have to say. Whether they are Democrat, Republican, Independent, they're interested in what you have to say, and they do generally have your best interests at heart.
So I mentioned in my talk that this past week I was at the broadcast conference for the AMS, and one of the sessions ended early. It actually was related to NOAA. And there was a discussion after, because we had time before lunch, that people were talking about basically their stories. That's how I learned of some of the stories that I shared. And the idea that was being kind of discussed was that we as a society, the AMS, American Meteorological Society, have a very strong combined voice, especially in the broadcast world, as we're being the public face of this. So I would even say if you have organizations, colleagues, I have friends and colleagues all across the country. So I think that's how I can take a local idea here in Peoria, but I have friends in Alabama and Tennessee and New York and Idaho and all across the country, Arizona, who would share similar thoughts. And if we have a nationwide kind of conglomerate thinking the same thing, that's, I think, how you can make your voice more powerful too. So depending on, it could be as simple as friends and family, but maybe professional organizations, whatever it is, I think take advantage of reaching out and kind of having a combined voice there too.
Thank you. And I think we've got two more questions for Nicole. Please explain how work requirements can cause people to lose Medicaid and how or what percent now prevent work. How does somebody working maybe more hours or a different wage, how does that affect their eligibility, I believe?
Sure. So it is not required in the state of Illinois that employers have to provide health coverage to their employees. So even if you're working full-time, employers are not required for that. It is a federal requirement that everybody's supposed to have health coverage. So if your employer doesn't supply it and you are over income for Medicaid, then you have to purchase it through the marketplace, which Heartland Health Services is also navigators for the, it's going to be the state-based marketplace this year for plan year 2026. So with that, though, that means that that person is going to have to pay their premium, which can be extremely high, especially if you're over income for Medicaid. It's going to be pretty high sometimes. But with work requirements, they're going, I believe, what's on the budget is that it's going from 1 time of work verification to 2 times per year. And if you've never had to do a work verification before, or never have had to apply for Medicaid before, or renew or anything like that, it's complicated. You have to do it online. The application benefits of eligibility website is the most frustrating website on the face of the planet. I do it every day. It's very annoying. So if I, who do it every day, get annoyed, somebody who only has to do it like once or twice a year is going to be annoyed. It never works. It never works. So it's complicated, and yeah, it's annoying, and it's designed not to work half the time. That's my own opinion, but it doesn't work half the time.
I think many of us can feel your pain calling almost any insurance company or other things and being put on hold or whatever. One more question. Can you address how Medicaid cuts will affect prenatal care and gynecological care for women?
Yes. So, women's health is one of those services that is not reimbursed at a higher rate. It is a lower rate reimbursement, unfortunately. Also, we know that women's care is just something that has been pushed off to the side. It's not something that is highly sought after. Many times for OB care, even in the central Illinois area, there's not enough. We don't have a lot of doctors that provide OB care, prenatal care, postpartum care, postpartum psychiatric mental health. There's a lot of that. Additionally, I could go on forever, so I'm going to just like make it short. There's just not enough out there, and the reimbursement rates are not available. If you notice as a woman, even if you have private insurance through your employer, if you're paying for marketplace insurance, you are on a wait list to see your provider anyways. So if you notice that there's just not enough providers anywhere in the United States. So if you're on Medicaid, that list is even shorter, and the service is not going to be adequate, and you're not going to see it quickly.
Thank you. And Sharon or Julie, do you have any other things you want to address? Questions that you didn't touch on? Okay.
I just wanted to talk about where our funding comes from for Meals on Wheels. So I did mention that many of it comes from the Older Americans Act, and through that funding that is channeled through the state, and then the state adds money to that as well. That's the bulk. It's about 85% of our Meals on Wheels program. So it's so important that we keep that. But we also receive NSIP dollars, which are Nutrition Service Incentive Program. And that basically is there's some formula that none of us can understand. And then we get a grant in the form of cash. But in some parts of the country, it could be within commodities, like in getting food as an incentive. But we also deal with Medicaid reimbursements, and that can be very, very complicated to get the approvals for individuals. So we also serve about 5% of our clients are individuals under the age of 60 who, due to a disability, cannot shop or cook for themselves. And then finally, we get 1%. About 1% of our funding is through DHS or DOORS. So we just really need to raise awareness for how important it is, because our senior population is just growing.
Thank you. And you can just leave that. We appreciate all the questions that you've submitted, as well as our speakers' responses. And I believe that we're coming up on some calls to action. And the speakers have all given you some ideas in their talks of things that you can do. But we've also got a handout for you with those. So be sure that you have that. So it's giving you not only their information, but also, call, as we've all said, call and voice your opinion. And some of your representatives, hopefully all of the representatives are covering these counties, are here when you're to call and voice your opinion. The 5 calls, I believe there was a handout on that at the front. Meeting with your legislators whenever they're in town, or at least trying to meet with them. The economic blackout is always use your pocketbook to express your displeasure with some of our big box companies and their policies. Be informed. Discuss these issues with others. Fight disinformation. If you have not been involved in being a poll watcher, consider that. Watch the process on election day, as well as being an election judge. As you may know, our slogan is democracy is not a spectator sport. You can't just sit back and wait for things to happen. You need to be part of it, all of us. One of the things that the League of Women Voters of the United States is just putting out is a program called Unite and Rise in the Fight for Democracy. The United States is in a constitutional crisis, and now is the time to band together to defend our Constitution, protect the rule of law, preservation of checks and balances, and safeguard the right of all persons who are eligible to vote, to build a democracy where every person and every voice counts. The League of Women Voters has something on their website on Commit to Unite and Rise 8.5. They're hoping to engage 85 million voters. They're asking you to take action by voting and volunteering to ensure that our freedom to vote is protected, mobilize nonviolent efforts to hold government accountable, stay informed about the policies and decisions that affect us all, combat disinformation, amplify the voices and the stories of all of those impacted. And I think we heard a few of those today. So through civic engagement, education, and collective power, we can fight back. We urge all of you to take moments weekly to get a hold of your congressman's office and leave a message. Let them know, make your voice heard. I'd like to thank all of our speakers today, the League members who worked to make this possible, to Eileen Steed, Voter Services Chair, and to all of you for coming out on this crazy hot day to hear about how we can fight for our democracy. Please check out our Facebook page, League of Women Voters Peoria, League of Women Voters of Greater Peoria, and our website, lwvgp.org, for future events and informations. And please return your survey so we can help plan our next events. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending the rally today. Thank you to our speakers. Please fill out and hand in the survey. Please donate to the church for letting us use this wonderful venue. Have a great day, and we will